welcome to the 40K Fireside podcast, where we discuss everything to do with competitive Warhammer 40K with your hosts Vic Vijay and David Gaylard. Okay, brilliant. Welcome everyone to 40K Fireside. It's your host Vic and David with you today. And today is Balance Dataslate Day, which is always super exciting, always gives us a huge amount to talk about. Now, as I look on my phone, every content creator out there is going through the entire Dataslate, all the points changes. So there's loads of information out there. And Dave and I were talking about this before we started the episode, and we decided we're going to try and hit our niche. We like to consolidate information, give analysis, give ideas on how the meta is going to shape up following big rules changes like this. So if you're here and you want to go through every single detail, we probably are not for you. But if you want us to filter through the detail on the key factions which have changed and give you an idea for how the meta is going to be, you're in the right place here. Before we jump into that, though, I want to pass it over to Dave. Dave's been doing a huge amount of work with 40K Fireside and his masterclasses. So, yeah, all yours.
Damn, thank you, bro. Yeah, just today we have launched, and I can flick it over here. You can see the beautiful 40K Fireside website here. You can check out, we just launched today, the Demonic Masterclass. And this thing is lengthy, mate. This is 7.5 hours long. I teamed up with Mike Pestilence from Warhammer. We played the Battle for Salvation tournament in New York together. And this guy is the creator of Warhammer, the blog website that has been around for like 4 to 5 years now, and only chaos. This guy knew every single detachment. We deep dive into Demonic Incursion, Shadow Legion, Plague Legion. Vic, I got to learn about Blood Legion, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. I was getting hyped, man. I really want to try some demons. We've got if Blood Legion's your thing, or Scintillating Legion's your thing, which is an interesting detachment now, definitely check that out. That's been cool. Like everything, we try and deliver the absolute best quality content there as well. Okay, and I forgot, Vic, we've got one more shout out. If you are a listener in London, we've got a shout out to the Bad Moon Cafe, who have just opened a new store in Holloway Road. It has just opened last week, I think. It's the premier place to play Warhammer in London. I was literally down there 2 days ago doing some real life coaching down the one in Bermondsey, just down a bike ride for me. So London is our largest city of audience that we've got. So special shout out to Bad Moon Cafe. Our teammate Boris is one of the co-owners and founders there. So big shout out to him.
It's an absolute top quality venue. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that, guys. And one shout out, because I did promise Nick from our Discord that I would give a shout out to his wife, Gabrielle, because she loves watching this podcast, and it is the only permissible podcast in their house about 40K.
Love it. Nick from Canada. Thanks, bro. All right, let's jump into it. The Balanced Dataslate. This was a bit of a big one, right? Like all over from a holistic point of view. It touched a lot of factions here in a, I don't want to say turbulent time, but some pretty big rises coming into the meta, like coming straight in at the top very recently here, right, Vic? So I think my overall takeaway from this Balanced Dataslate was there are a lot of changes, but it didn't really touch on the few armies that have recently just come to the meta that are ultimately having a huge impact as well. So it's a bit backwards looking, in my opinion, overall.
Yeah, the timing is awkward, isn't it? Because we're getting a lot of codexes after a gap of not getting many codexes. So, if your codex is coming out now, you're probably in a much better position than if it came out a month or so ago. So we see that through here with the differences between Emperor's Children balancing versus Death Guard and Thousand Sons getting balanced, yeah.
Yeah, nice. All right, why don't we, no further delay. First of all, there weren't any big core changes to the game mechanic, despite the numerous amounts of spoilers and leaks everywhere. But finally, we did see Sisters getting some changes, which is very well deserved. Why don't you run us through them, Vic? Most of them are in the points, right?
This is a super interesting one. Actually, there's a few rules changes and some changes to points as well. The big thing on the rules change side of things is if you scroll down a little bit, Dave, at the bottom of this, there'll be a comment about the Grotmus detachment for Sisters, which before was a little bit restricted. You had to spend a lot of miracle dice to actually activate this particular detachment. But even with that, the detachment was fairly good. It gave OC2 to your Celestian units, your Sacrosanct units. And before you had to discard up to 3 miracle dice, and 3 of your units can get righteous. They get a little bit faster. They hit a little bit harder. Now you just straight up pick 3 units. So that is a direct
Ooh,
buff. It's quite significant here. All of
wow,
the stratagems then proc at a higher level with that. So that's very nice. The
nice.
other significant rule change, in my opinion, is the change to Zephyrim here. Zephyrim also required a miracle dice to activate sustained hits and lethal hits, but now they just get it if they charge.
Mm.
Retributors get a small buff here, which is they can reroll hit and wound rolls of 1, and if they get their buffed version because the enemy unit has destroyed something and they're being retributing them, they get +1 to hit and wound. So that is
Wow.
a small. The big thing that kind of adds up with this, Dave, is that there are a good number of points changes for sisters here.
Yep. One
Um,
moment.
Sisters
Bam.
took 3 levels of nerfs, and now they're on their second stage of buffs, which is kind of interesting. But the points changes they've chosen to do here are on units that you probably will see in any kind of good stuff sisters list. You've got
Yeah, I mean, I recognize all these names here, which is good.
Absolutely. I love that they've reduced the Triumph of St. Catherine a little bit, maybe still a little bit expensive, but
Hmm.
stuff like the Seraphim, Castigator, Immolator, and the Paragon Warsuits are things you will just see in Sisters lists. So for them to
Hmm.
get a points decrease, you're probably looking at Sisters list gaining between 80 to 90 points,
Nice.
pretty much across the board, which is going to be enough for them to get a little bit more into the list
Hmm.
and potentially tip them over the edge into being competitive again. I
Nice.
don't think it's a huge buff because Sisters actually started off in a relatively awkward place where Bringers of Flame was propping up the army.
Hmm.
And then they've taken some big hits on Miracle Dice, which are still there. Is this enough to bring them to the top of the fold? I don't think so personally, but I think they are going to be relevant. And for Sisters players, this is going to be brilliant for them to try and list build and try and
Yeah.
do better in
And
competitive play.
so, what's your number one takeaway from these changes here? Like, what are you liking the look of the most here? Because I think that new Grotmus detachment, they must have gotten a pretty significant buff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I still think Sacrosancts are a really good core to build your list around, or
Hmm.
Archoflagellants if you're in Hallowed Martyrs. And I think those two detachments, the Champions of Fate and the Hallowed Martyrs, and maybe Army of Fate as well, all three of those detachments are going to see some play here. Bringers of
Nice,
Flame getting points drops on Castigators and Immolators is still very relevant. So I think you're going to really see 4 different detachments in play
nice,
at a decent level competitively, with none of them really being absolute standouts.
nice.
So good place for Sisters to be.
That's a cool overhaul.
Mhm.
It's nice when you see a little detachment change plus a little data sheet changes in the right places, not just random units, right? Um, Seems like Games Workshop is getting a little bit better these days at understanding when they do make changes, they actually have to make them on relevant units, not just across a myriad of random stuff.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed is GW have generally become better at buffing things.
Okay.
When they buff them via the data slate, they tend to do quite a good job of it.
Hmm.
Most of the time, I mean, there's a few little. I mean, did do we the +1 to wound oath thing was maybe a little much, but otherwise, most of them have been pretty good. But the nerfs sometimes can go in real hard,
Yeah, I think they
multiple
still
layers.
need to understand how to do the nerfing thing. I think as well,
Mhm.
right? Because they everyone jokes about the triple nerf, but it
Yeah,
still seems to
yeah,
happen a lot of the times.
yeah. It's when the second layer of nerf comes in, ignoring that there's already been a first layer.
Yep, and we've got a triple nerf coming in here, so
Have we? Okay.
we'll get to it in a minute. Well, I think this might be the straight up triple nerf that we're after. I was going to talk about Ultramarines really quickly here, though.
Yeah,
For
do you
some
want to
reason, I
jump
had
in
that
with
in
that?
there. So I've been playing a lot of Ultramarines recently, and I've been playing Gladius as well, which kind of is similar. Ultramarines got one change here, realistically, and that is that Calgar and Gilliman can't. They can both be in the same army, but Calgar has to be a warlord to gain the CP
Mhm.
additionally. So that usually will put you on the breakpoint of you either play Calgar or Gilliman, I think. And Gilliman definitely still has his pros and cons, but I think Calgar is really Gilliman is a good enabler, but Calgar is a piece of capability that you get from no other unit in your army. For example, he's really what allows you to do the put your unit in tactical, kill a unit in combat, then trigger that, play reactive move back behind a ruin, and if you can ever do that, typically you win your game on the spot. And his unit is really unique. Where I think Gilliman is obviously a huge beatstick, but now his change is that he can only reduce the CP count once per battle round, so you lose 5 CP there. And that would be his main change. He went down a little bit in points for that though, and so did Calgar. But I think these lists you're going to see will take a few more points from some other units that might have changed. So why don't I actually just bring up? Why don't I look up Vanguard Vet? We've got some interesting changes here, and I'm a little bit worried in some of these changes and how they could be used in other detachments. For example, Vanguard veterans with jump packs, 95 points, Vic. If you look at that, JPI was only 90, right? And JPI saw a lot of play, but you can imagine these guys do a lot more damage in Blood Angels, for example. And I could even see them playing in Ultramarines because you still get the +1 to wound.
You see, I think they brought them on par with Assault Intercessors with jump packs now.
Yep.
Because they don't necessarily do more damage, really, but they're really well costed here. The problem I have is now you have the Assault Intercessors were already too cheap. So now instead of having one cheap jump pack melee unit, you now have two. So
well, if you're playing against Eldar, it doesn't really matter what detachment you're playing. But if you're playing in Blood Angels, the 12-inch moving guys do significantly more damage, which is, I think, a detachment problem. Trying to balance them around that as well. Then we've seen, I believe, we also had a couple of other changes here as well. Some very interesting changes when you look at some other factions, detachments. Sorry, we've got the aggressors come down 20. That's not shifting me on anything in particular. Then we've got Captain with Jump Pack coming down 10. Okay, well, Vanguard Veterans came down, so, something there. This changed with the Heavy Intercessors. Vic, this unit has consistently gotten cheaper every single day.
They're really cheap.
And Dark Angels just got a detachment where you can make them -1 to wound, which is interesting as well. And then you can see Marnia's Calgar down there 10 as well. So I think Heavy Intercessors are something you should be looking at. I think if you were playing just the Ultramarines list, like, for example, that I was playing, or Innes or Josh, you can swap Gilliman out there into probably another melee piece, maybe even a Rhino. Your shooting back end is still super reliable. Maybe drop a Vindicator, go more melee orientated. You've got a lot of options there in that army. And then you've obviously got other armies you can play Space Wolves or Blood Angels as well. So I think for me on Ultramarines, it's a bit of a nerf, but it's on the very light side in such that it's a side grade and the mid's changing so much that it's very difficult to say whether or not it's even a downgrade at all after that. Because you might sometimes, Vic, something gets nerfed and people go, actually, it was kind of better to play all this other stuff instead of a 350 point model. You know what I mean? Warhammer's a bit funny like that. Sometimes you only kind of realize things when you're forced to play differently. So yeah, interesting. I think Ultramarines are in a fantastic spot still. The Second Oath is not backbreaking if you don't have it, and a lot of times your ballistas are re-rolling anyway. So very, very good army still.
I'm actually a little surprised, to be honest, with Space Marines not getting a couple of points increases. I think there's a good argument for, say, leaving Calgar and Gilliman at this current points and increasing the ballistas.
I think
easily the Assault Intercessors with jump packs could have gone up a tiny bit as well.
I could every single list plays as a combi lieutenant. I could definitely see the combi lieutenant going up. I could definitely have seen scouts going up, right? Like every list just plays scouts, combi lieutenants, ballistas going up. Yeah, I was quite surprised when I saw that. I would have had on my Christmas list ballistas going up by 5 to 10 easily. And Space Marines have a really wide collection of data sheets here. Repulse Execution is only 220, right? So, maybe you play a Rep X instead of a Vindicator, and maybe you can then play maybe some Aggressors or something like that, right? Or Heavy Intercessors, It's interesting. Definitely still very strong.
He is very, very kind here, I think, for the Ultramarines and Space Marines.
And there are some factions we'll get to later that share this Marine faction that got a little bit of a buff as well. Yep. Nice, awesome.
Shall we do the elves?
Yes. Oh.
Okay, so Eldar is a really interesting one because Eldar suffer from the second layer of nerfs here because they already took a set of nerfs which were slightly in the wrong place on the first balance update.
Okay. What do you mean by that, Vic?
By that I mean the timing of when Eldar came out was 1 month before the last balance update. And
Mm.
there wasn't very much data, and there was a lot of community discussion saying things like, oh, fire dragons are too cheap, Asuman is too cheap. And those are the units that actually got the nerfs last time. You had 10 Dark Reapers go up in cost, you had Fire Dragons go up in cost, and Asuman go up in cost, as well as Dire Avengers and Striking Scorpions. So there was quite a wide suite of points increases at the last balance update. The problem was probably the single strongest thing in Eldar was the Yannari detachment and the Yannari
Mm-hmm.
detachment rule, which was not touched. So we had 3 months of Yannari doing very well statistically, and now they're taking the nerfs. Now there are a number of nerfs here which really hit Yannari very hard, which I think is correct. To be honest, if this was the first balance update for Eldar and there was no other changes, you're actually seeing would have seen Eldar in a perfect position.
Okay.
But okay, let's focus on the Yanari now. So the
Mm-hmm.
Yanari has got damaged quite a bit here because it's been changed from any of your units getting a free move if your opponent kills something in the shooting phase to now being only a infantry or mounted unit and only one that was within 6 inches of the destroyed unit. And instead of doing a full move, it does a d6+1 move.
Mm-hmm.
So that detachment rule did get gutted fairly intensely there.
Mm-hmm.
Now that might be okay, but you've also had some nerfs to Ivrain's rule, a little bit of a nerf there. I think it's instead of full rerolls, it's just a little bit of rerolls.
Reroll ones, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, reroll ones, and then some points increases for a number of the Drukhari Yannari units, and I think Ivrain as well. Um, let's see, what have we got? If you scroll to the next page,
Oh, for the
this
Darkon.
one for the Yannari, yeah, it's oh no, so it's the Yin Khan, the Archon, and the Incubi have all gone up in points by a good amount. So that on top of the other changes, which is to Fire Dragons, Howling Banshees, Autarchs here,
Mm-hmm.
will end up with your Yannari list going up significantly in points with a much weaker lethal intent. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's enough of a nerf there that Yannari doesn't become the go-to detachment.
Good.
It's probably dipping down into a tier where it doesn't see competitive play, in my opinion. Now, the issue is that Yannari gets such a hard nerf, but there are a few other things which have caught some stray bullets here.
Mm-hmm.
The other Eldari detachments are nowhere near as strong as Yannari, in my opinion. They're
Mm-hmm.
actually sit in a very kind of balanced, kind of B low A tier level of play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they've taken a bit of a hit here because the Autarch Banshee unit is critical for the way that most detachments play. The Fire Dragons are a very important anti tank. They've got a little bit of compensation by getting Fire Prisms, Shining Spears, and War Walkers getting some points decreases. So they get
Mm-hmm.
some anti tank in some different areas here, potentially. Those units are still relatively overcosted for what they bring in terms of external balance.
Yeah, I
But
can see the Fire Prism at 150 is a lot more applicable, but War Walker's at 85.
I mean,
You know.
if you look at generally how much people are paying for vehicles and long range anti tank, the Fire
Mm-hmm.
Prism is overcosted. It's not actually that good. It's just
Okay.
kind of all right. It's very low volume shooting, and even the spread profile, you're really paying 150 points for that. Maybe I'm spoiled from seeing like some of the T Suns vehicles and generally CSM vehicles, Space Marine vehicles, everything. You get a little bit more for your
Honestly,
points.
I think 150 is around like the average, yeah. To be completely honest, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you'd probably rather have a Gladiator Lancer than you would a Fire Prism, for example.
Yeah, they're
Uh,
both not great. They both don't kill a tank in one go, which is the fundamental problem about them.
yes, you'd probably rather have a Pred Annihilator for 130 than a Fire
Yeah.
Prism if you could, because it comes with a Combi Bolter, Havoc Launcher, it comes with a lot of extra stuff,
A lot smaller as well, obviously.
and yeah, and easier to move around. But what all of this means is that you're probably on par with your other detachments, and you're taking about 50 points here,
Mm-hmm.
which is you're on par with your anti-tank, but your actual army is taking a 50-point hit here, which is
Mm-hmm.
actually really harsh if you think about Aspect Host or Seer Council or Guardian Battle Host, because if Yannari didn't exist, you probably wouldn't have too much of a worry about it. The big problem is if you look at the Warlock Conclave 4 model there, that is
Mm-hmm.
plus 20 points. So you're paying 130 points for this 4-man Warlock Conclave, which I
Mm-hmm.
think Seer Council and Guardian Battle Host really strongly built around.
For sure, yeah. I did notice that Warlock Conclave was a little bit out of left field, and I thought, but there are these subsequent detachments that also play these big flamer squads, which I've been the
Yep.
victim of.
I mean, they're really good. So I wouldn't. I mean, it's kind of clever to catch them with some kind of points increase, but plus 20 is a lot. So
Mhm.
now you're getting these Seer Council and Guardian Battle Host unit armies, which may be taking plus 100 points on them,
Mm.
which is a lot and probably a little bit too much for Eldar to stay in the top tier of the game, in my opinion. I think they're solidly in the B tier of armies here. I think it's going to be
Okay.
really tough for them to play out for big wins.
I could have seen them just changing lethal intent, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you could go back to when Eldar were first released and just done the hardcore lethal intent change. And I feel like Eldar would have
Mm.
sat at around the 50% mark, to be honest.
Okay, I'm
Uh,
going to disagree with you on that one because I don't think that because at those points levels, I know they fielded like 20 to 23 units, which I feel like was actually just too much stuff in general there. I mean, I remember our early games where you were playing just aspect host, right, which would have just been completely unchanged at that point, which I still think is extremely strong.
yeah,
Was
it was.
extremely strong when you very only were just starting to play it, right?
I think that the 20 to 23 units is actually Yanari from the Index rather than the Codex Eldari. I think
Okay,
you would actually be compromising your list effectiveness by not running some of the characters like Autarchs and Phoenix
sure.
Lords inside of units. So you're probably looking more at the 18 unit count, which I think is the correct place for Eldar to sit with their toughness.
Yep.
Um, you probably still
So
can get there if you push it, but you're not going to be playing at that amount. You're going to be playing around the 14 to 15 units here, I think,
So I
with
know in the
Eldar.
Fireside Discord, guys, I can't share the screen at the moment, but we've got the Fireside Discord where we, at the beginning of the podcast, I ask, does anyone have any questions for the episode? And we've obviously had a ton of people.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so many. But one has come up. What is up with this Guardian Battle Host build that people have been brewing up in our Discord? What's the story with that?
Okay, so Guardian Battle Host is a very, very good detachment. It
Hmm.
follows some of the similar concepts to Seer Council in that the mainstay units are these big bricks of Guardians with Warlock
Mm,
Conclave attached. You use a Farseer and Eldrad, and then you play the game by comboing output from these units.
sick.
Guardian Battle Host is really cool. They have a very strong suite of stratagems. They have, what's that one where the guardsmen come back?
Oh, reinforcements, yeah.
Reinforcements. They basically have that which they can use an unlimited amount of times,
What?
and it's one CP.
What?
So you basically, if you're missing any, oh no, but it's even better because
I'm
if your
looking at this
unit,
bullshit right now. What the
your
fuck?
your unit, you basically remove off the board, and then you can it goes into strat reserves. And then you can return any destroyed guardians to it. So it's a little bit worse and a little bit better. It's worse in the sense that you can't bring a dead unit back, but it's better in the sense that you can basically redeploy your unit and bring back any dead models.
Damn,
Uh,
that's good, dude.
yeah, and they've got the ability to shoot into combat. They've got an auto advance 6 and the ability to advance and shoot and charge after that. It's a very powerful detachment, which is just short on having stuff, to be honest.
Okay.
I've tried it against T Suns, and really, you feel so great. You're in awesome positions, and your guardians just get looked at, and the whole unit just disintegrates, even though it's like a 350-point unit. Um,
That's
so
crazy.
it's really cool, but it's actually not super strong. But potentially, it's the best way to play Eldar between
Oh,
Seer Council and Guardian Battle Host, and Aspect Host is taking another 60 points here. Is it still okay? I think all of these armies are kind of just under A tier level of cool, but nothing special, which is
okay.
fine.
There we go. Yeah. Lethal Intent was the most bullshit ability I think printed in a very long time. I'm just going to
Yeah,
leave it at that. It took zero skill to use Lethal Intent either, as well.
it certainly took more skill than putting 6 Canoptek rates on the board.
Uh, that's a very, very low bar.
But I'm just
Okay.
saying there are a lot of things which are not nice to play against. I mean, I could say the entire Imperial Knight, Chaos Knight faction is awful to play against. So there are a number of things on par with Yunari, and I want
No,
people
no,
to
no,
remember
no.
that.
I'm going to call you out.
I
That is
want people to
completely
remember that.
fucking bullshit. That
Yeah.
rule is 50,000 times worse than your opponent
Nope.
just having big knights.
No. Imperial Knights as a faction is worse than Lethal Intent. That's my take. As an entire faction, it's actually less cool than Lethal Intent.
Vic, our subscribers are going down. Shh. The three Imperial Knight players have now left the Discord. Okay, so good. All right, talking about big robots and tanks.
Mhm,
Why don't we move on to Imperial Guard? This has been.
mhm.
My journey with Imperial Guard and watching the balance updates come out time after time has been a bit of a journey for me. Particularly because Wraiths also got buffed this patch. No, I'm kidding. Imperial Guard probably took arguably one of the biggest nerfs, I think, actually, over the balance patch. This patch, I think the combined arms list goes up roughly 90 to 100 points, and so obviously Eldar took a much bigger nerf than that. But I think Emperor's Children was the second faction up there with like 80 to 90 points. So yeah, quite a substantial number of points on that stuff, and it all hit key units as well. So 80, 90 points. My mechanized list, I think, went up 20 on Creed, and also went up 10 on the Torok. So only looking at 30-ish points there, but I was playing everything that was off meta. I think one of the things, if this solidifies anything, I think Mechanized is clearly the best singles build after this, given that you can side grade out a couple of those changes as well. And I think that a couple of good things that didn't get hit here was the Rogal Dawn Tank Commander. I was surprised to see that it didn't go up. I could have seen it take 5 to 10 points. It's just a very good all-round reliable unit. I was surprised that Vanquishers didn't go up, but I was also happy with that. But I was also surprised that the Ballistus Dreadnought didn't go up. So, they're obviously in that big dumb tank bucket that doesn't get changed. And then, it's obviously interesting that the Krieg specifically were hit. That was like the core component of the combined arms build. And then we saw Tauroxes cop a little bit of a points increase. I think that's completely fair. Tauroxes have been pretty powerful, but actually we didn't really see the combined arm list spam Tauroxes, nor did we see the mechanized build spam Tauroxes. So a little bit of a harsh one on that one, I think. And one thing I was doing when I was looking through the statistics here is that since Emperor's Children has been released, which I think is a couple of months, Guard have won 2 tournaments over that entire period. I was one of them at a GT, and Gustavo from our Discord was the other person at the Super Major. So they haven't been destroying any metric of statistic, but I'm not saying that that is the necessary way you should obviously buff or nerf a faction. So yeah, I think Guard's still in a good place. I think in terms of meta rises, I think Death Guard can be a pretty rough matchup. Particularly because they field a lot of tanks, can 6-inch deep strike you. I think Mechanized has got some pretty decent play against that because it has quite a few screens. And I think maybe Mechanized could potentially have a decent game against Thousand Suns there as well. Particularly you want to be playing, and if Blood Angels become a bit more popular, you do want to be playing Mechanized against that build as well. So people should be upgrading to the better detachment regardless, but it is significantly harder to play, though. That is the problem. But as this, as these deadly combat armies get in there, it's going to be harder to play combined arms. So Guard players that I know love to sit in their comfort zone, trust the index. You're going to have to start learning some new stuff, I think. I think Siege has gotten a little bit better from these changes as well, particularly with Thousand Suns. You could play the Field Ordnance Battery, which is actually very good at killing Zangor Shamans, Zangor Enlightened, because it's a D6 shot platform with indirect that you can shoot Zangor Enlightened with AP 1 damage too. And so you can just keep chipping off these bow goats, which are a huge part of their integral game plan, I think. Or even just Rubric Marines. So bringing it back a bit in indirect there is actually quite good. And actually the indirect is quite good against the Rubric Marines if you can kill the Rhino, because then their Temporal Surge is also slowed down by 2, I think. So potentially some options there in Siege, I think, as well.
How about the points decreases? I saw Bulgarins, Aquilons.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of changes. One that I've been asking for so long. Everyone, you can thank me. Your Leontis can now order Titanic units. Yes, we've done it. You can now play your Baneblade at Ballista Skill 3. It was a big ask, but we got there in the end. Nice. So you can play a Baneblade or a Titanic in Hammer of the Emperor, where you're probably playing Leontis anyway, so that's okay. And then if we go to Astra, one moment. We've got a couple of changes here. Bulgrin down, 200 for 6. Still not good. Death Riders, 60 points for 5. They're okay as literally the one turn try and out OC your opponent, reactive move, do something, sure. One really interesting point is Lord Marshal Dreer, who has got to be one of the worst data sheets in the entire game. I don't even know where he is.
He's 100 points there. He's in the middle.
We're 100 points. I probably wouldn't play this guy at 60 points. He is awful. And then Aquilons go down 10. I mean, people weren't playing Aquilons particularly in Bridgehead. Maybe Aquilons get a little bit better now that Death Guard are in the meta to try and block some 6-inch deep strikes or something like that. But the way that the meta is coming up with some more toughness 2 mech stuff, Aquilons are actually a lot worse against. Particularly not very good against Thousand Suns at all either, I would venture to guess. So, yeah, all in all, it's a bit of a nerf, but if you play a better build like Mechanized, you're actually coming out okay. But there's still Predators in the army. I think I'd probably still leave Guard at a, it's difficult to say how good Guard is when I'm only seeing my play experience with it. For the general public, I think Guard will be significantly worse from where it was. And I didn't actually think many teams were going to play this at WTC as well, which is a weird take. I know a lot of people really struggled with Guard on WTC with the best builds in the game. An interesting point there.
Yep.
So, yeah, I expect the win rate to go down a reasonable amount here, and hopefully
Can it go down any lower?
It's pretty low. It was like the third lowest in the game. Sorry.
Oh, gosh, and it's still such a good army. Isn't it amazing how it just doesn't translate?
Exactly, yeah. So I think that's why I say for the general public, it'll probably go down a bit. I think for me, I'm probably looking at it as like a top 6 army in the game right now. But Yari getting nerfed was a really good part because that was actually the lethal intent was very, very good against your army, and particularly fire dragons with sustained lethal sustained, and with the dice would one tap a tank every time, basically, mathematically. So that not being in the meta is definitely a big win for the mechanized build. So TLDR, go play mechanized. Look at the builds and videos I've already done. It's by far the most resilient build to all these changes. Okay, that's enough about Guard.
Nice.
I've been playing so many other factions anyway, so I'm nowhere near as depressed about these changes as I would normally be, because there are some spicy ones coming up, and I've been playing loads of stuff recently, so I'm living my best life, mate.
What have we got next? Is it Blood Angels on the list?
Well, we have Blood Angels. Okay, I've been playing. I did want to talk about Demons briefly.
Oh yeah, sure, of course.
Demons got off really light, by the way. Demons only took like 10 points to the Fade Relic and 10 points to the Scout Relic, and Demons were very, very good. They were a lot better on GW terrain, I think, and a bit better on WTC than UKTC. But actually, the America is our largest audience base here. So if you're playing in USA, Demons got off really lightly, and considering a bunch of other stuff got nerfed, I think that's a super interesting faction to genuinely look into. Shadow Legion has got a ton of play to it. Demonic Incursion, if you like monster mashes, is really good. And actually, Scintillating Legion is the Zinch one, by the way, Vic, has a... If you've got a lot of Thousand Suns in your meta, that has a relic where you can give a 4-up Feel No Pain against psychic attacks and mortal wounds to your entire army, basically. Is quite good. I would be interested to see if anyone plays that for WTC as a T-Suns counter, because it's got a lot of play against a lot of stuff, actually. Demons looking in a great spot. I was really surprised that they didn't get points on maybe like Scarbrand or Fleshhounds or, I don't know, Belkor, maybe a little
Nurglings, didn't they?
Nurglings, I think. They did take points on Nurglings. Yeah.
And I think Nurglings can't be 9s now. I might be making that up. But
yeah, that was the balance change before this one as well. Yeah, but you commonly played them in 3s now, or like or 6 if you just had the points for it. Yeah. All right, Blood Angels. Vic, do you know anything about this?
Blood Angels. Okay, so the Black Rage ability, that's a minor change, but real nice quality of life for Blood Angels.
Maybe not such a minor change. It's quite good, actually. What this means is that you can take a Death Company jump pack unit or a Death Company walk-in unit. You can put any character in them, and they will always be Objective Secured 1, Objective Control 1, whatever. So previously, if you wanted to run these, you would have to put a Chaplain in them. The Chaplain's kind of crap because it doesn't do much damage at all. But now you can actually put a hard-hitting character in them. You don't lose OC, and you can fall back and do stuff now. So,
can you attach more stuff to Death Company?
I believe so. Or you can either run like a character, you can attack with your Death Company and have another character unit next to it that's not a Chaplain, and then you still have the OC there anyway. So if you just string one guy back, you're fighting in another place, you can be within 6. It's actually a pretty nice buff because your main way of playing Death Company are going to be like flipping objectives. So previously they couldn't do that if you just ran a squad of no characters, right? But now you can actually kill something on objective and then be on OC on it, or like severely damage it, still be OC5, for example.
I mean, yeah, okay. Quality of life is going to be great here, I think, for using more of your Death Company units. But really, the main thing is the sea of green on the points changes here. There we go.
Wow.
Whoa, okay. Because
Man, someone
honestly,
get the landscaper.
I think Blood Angels were actually in a solid position just playing off the kind of assault indices, the JPIs, and you know
You kind of throw
now,
anything together in this army and it hits pretty hard. So you played like lots of scouts, assault
yeah,
intercessors. You played
yeah,
when I was playing Chris, 18 Blade Guard were
yep.
really well. Is very good. Olivier Weiss was
Blade Guard is
destroying
another
people.
one. Why have
Yeah,
Blade Guard not gone up in points? So the mainstay was really Blade Guard and JPIs, but now you have a significant other options that you can take, which are decently costed. I mean, Sanguinary Guard just stand out to me, being
yep, yeah. It is
110
a
for
little
3
bit.
there.
Yeah, so this is a little bit nuanced because some of these things were not played a lot in the very
Correct,
top
yeah.
builds. So, Lamates with the DC brick wasn't like. Actually, that was a perfectly viable unit. Death Company Dreadnought, not great, right? Dante obviously was very good. Mephiston, not played a ton. Bow
But good.
Predator.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nothing that is green here was bad at all. Like all of it was perfectly playable. In fact, on the good side of perfectly playable. Astrath, maybe wasn't played a lot, but for me, what stands out: the Sangard going down, Dante going down, uh, DC jump packs with Lamates going down as well. And for some reason, a Bow Predator is just 125 points now.
It's cheap.
Like,
It's so cheap.
okay, how cheap do you want this thing? It's the same price as a Hellhound, for example. And yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you're running 3 bricks, for example, of let's say you're running 9 Sanguinary Guard and you're running Dante and maybe like 2 Priests or something, you're taking 30 points, 60 points there. Dante is down 10, 70. 2 Priests is down 30. So that's like 90, 100 points right there. And you might have played no Sanguinary Priest. You might have just played him with like a jump pack captain or something. So that's still 70 points off your list right there. If you were already playing 3x3 Sangard and Dante, for example.
The army's
Yeah.
just become more efficient now. I think you can really lean into just having a lot of jump pack guys, which is a very strong build, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel, Vic, but I actually don't super enjoy playing against these like massive efficient melee armies when they go first and like stage into a ruin. You're just kind of like, you can see the game 5 turns from now. You're like, how am I ever holding my expansion objective? How am I ever going to get past my half of the board? Like, okay, they send a unit out, kill my unit, send it out, kill a unit. It's like, okay, great, interesting one.
Like CSM and EC.
Sure.
I feel like those ones do it a little bit more correctly. There's only a small number of efficient melee units that you can take. So you run like 3 units of Infractors. You'll run like 1 big unit of Chosen and a couple of Legionary units. And I feel like those are much better designed melee armies than here is 100 Marine bodies with jump packs.
Yeah.
And here I'm just going to go stand behind this wall. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. It's Blood Angels, expect to see them, guys. The only thing I'm confident in is that Death Guard have a lot of fights first. So all these Blood Angel Death Guard players, they can hopefully play each other.
That's a different kind of sea of green, isn't it?
Yeah. That was excellent. Nice. Okay, what have we got up next? I jumped ahead on demons there.
You did demons. CK we don't care about. CSM.
Okay, CSM. Here we go.
Oh, CSM. I am actually quite excited for CSM. I don't know if they really needed this much of a buff, but it's happening. The big highlight really for me is the Lord Discordant in the middle, because I think the Lord Discordant is so viable. I think he's got 4 buffs there. Yeah. So his invulnerable save has gone to a 4 up, which is beautiful, but his move characteristic has gone up to 14.
He gets plus 4 to move.
It was 10 before, so 14 is huge. He does a really nice, easy to use chunk of mortal wounds with corrupt machine spirits, and Spirit Thief is like you mark an enemy unit, enemy vehicle, and your whole army gets reroll once to wound there, which is beautiful.
What is this?
He's got a little buff to his main melee attack, going up to damage 3, which is spicy. Increased strength,
Bro,
AP.
that little
attacks.
buff. He gets +1 attack, +2 strength, +1 AP, and +1 damage. This guy's got like a 30-point enhancement on him all of a sudden.
It's beautiful. I think you're going to see 3 of these guys running Renegade Raiders, and it's going to be
Oh,
both
no.
cool and really, really powerful. Eh, they're actually genuinely good, I think. They're mounted. They count as mounted. They're not vehicles. So
I have bad memories of these guys, like back when LGT 9th edition, oh my god.
Yeah.
Every Emperor's Children player was playing their Disco Lord, and man.
Beautiful
An
times.
absolute nightmare.
Vashtor is also really buffed up now. He's got nice load up ability. That the reorder reality sure is solid. But then if you go up, his sweep profile got a significant improvement here. So
Nice.
his sweep profile has dev wounds now, so he does on average do pretty much 12 damage to a vehicle now.
Yes,
with anti-vehicle 4-up dev wounds.
Yeah. That's awesome because it's like anti-vehicle 4-up. Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah. He's solid.
So he used to be 10 attacks, 802. He's now 12 attacks, 812 with dev wounds. Damn.
Yeah,
that's cool.
He's really, really powerful, and the aura of +2 strength for weapons. That can apply to your Lord Discordants as well. Oh no, are they vehicle mounted? I'm not sure.
Demon vehicle. Well, you already stated he's not a vehicle, Vic.
Yeah, but he could be vehicle mounted, which would be really interesting.
So add to the. I mean, +1 strength. By the way, Scintillating Legion. This is the biggest change to it. Is the CP strat for getting extra strength is the main part of why that is a lot better now. +2 strength is really good on a detachment, right? Like if you've got like Forge Fiends or you got like Predator Annihilate, the ones with the auto cannons, whatever, going from like 9 to 11 versus like 9 to 10.
This one's just the demons, so it's probably going to be the Venom Crawlers and the and the Forge Fiends there. But it's still really cool. Maybe a Defiler.
Ooh, Defiler. Spiky boys.
But yeah, this is nice because CSM didn't get any points nerfs at all, except for Noise Marines going up by 10. So
yeah,
nice. Good position for
good
CSM.
Changes. Yeah. Good changes for cool models. I'm always for that. By the way.
Good changes for cool models. In another world, CSM would actually represent in the meta as how strong they actually are, which is actually really quite strong. But for some reason, they just don't. So let's see if there's a bit more of an uptake from top players playing CSM, except from just Liam, because I think they're a very, very good army.
Yeah, very good. I played Liam recently on them, actually. He was playing Veterans, which is super strong, which is like kind of what no one really plays as well.
Only he can play that.
Okay, we've got some pretty significant changes to Lionel Johnson here.
Oh, big buffs.
Now, okay, his first ability, because I'm not going to lie to you, I've already forgotten all the changes that have happened to him. Let me just bring it up here, because this guy's gotten significantly better. So, his first ability was basically you can battle shock, like you can vector stratagem or like once something like that. They've taken battle shock aura, not super relevant. He can now jump back up in the sky. That's not super relevant, if I'm being honest with you.
He has deep strike, so he can just basically in the same turn he goes up and down.
Yeah, sure. But I feel like you kind of want to upping him, downing him is like the best part about it. I don't think.
Okay.
Second one, Martial Exemplar. Basically, gains reroll 1 to wound as well. So straight up, he gets like a nice Bellicle aura, reroll 1s to hit and wound. It's very good, especially if you've got like shooting elements next to him. It's only a step to Astartes units as well, so obviously that affects your tanks. And then the last one, Emperor Shield, is basically -1 to wounds. So previously that would be a 4-up, feel no pain against mortal wounds, which is actually kind of useful in this meta right now. So I'm not sure about that one. It's definitely good against, for example, stuff that's going to be able to be better at killing him. So his abilities, I think, now are a little bit more situational. But I think Marshall's Exemplar, just straight up getting real 1s to wound as well, is so much more of a difference of like wanting to turn that aura on. So I do definitely think that that is a considerable buff for him, in my opinion. He is super valid to play. And I'm not going to say this is not, you can't play this ability.
Do you know anything about their new detachment at all, Dave?
Yeah, the new detachment. Look, okay, so I haven't got it up, but new detachment has some really powerful things that strike out to me. I'm not sure it's going to be the best Space Marine detachment, but if you're a Dark Angels player, I think you should be really happy with it. In short, the best things about it are, in my opinion, all your infantry models and Ravenwing models, but don't worry about those models, are minus, mini transhuman, so if your strength is higher, they get transhuman. -1 to wound. Now, I was really surprised that this wasn't locked to just Deathwing and Ravenwing. It's just all Adeptus Astartes infantry, which opens you up to the entire Space Marines datasheet codex range, right? So you can play legitimately like Inner Circle Companion, Deathwing Knights. You can play Heavy Intercessors, which just came down in points. You can play, I don't know, JPIs, your Scouts as well. Like all of that stuff is now -1 to wound,
Blade
which is actually
Veterans.
really, really big. Uh, you don't even play the build where you've got like maybe tanks and stuff like that, right? You just go, okay, my army wide wall is like -1 to wound. Like Inner Circle Companions are going to be an absolute nightmare, and it's -1 to wound in combat as well. So this army is going to be absolutely insanely hard to kill in combat.
Mm.
Then they've got like a couple of really good strats. Believe it or not, the best strat that I saw was actually they've got a 1 CP strat in the command phase. Any command phase, your unit gets +1 OC.
Nice.
So what that means is that you can hit your opponent's expansion, even if you don't flip it, you can make your regular Marines like JPIs OC2.
Mhm.
That's extremely good. They've also got a strat straight up, basically any unit in your army, advanced shoot and charge. Okay,
Nice. You
that's
love those,
good.
don't you, Dave?
Yeah, and then they've got another cool one. They can like counter charge, like at the end of the charge phase. If they're within
Mhm.
3 inches, they can like old school heroic, which is obviously good. If they're just trying to like out OC on an objective. So
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of hidden power behind this man. I think maybe like one long range piece of shooting and just like infantry dudes. I mean, like I'm not gonna lie, but heavy intercessors are a pretty cheap data sheet. Like, you get 5 of those guys for like 100 points, and they're toughness 6 and Gravis armor and 15 wounds, and
Mm.
yeah. How many even heavy intercessors can you put on a table?
Hey, you get 10 guardians for the same points. Fight me.
So I think this detachment's super viable. It's actually got a huge amount of list building room in there as well. So really really happy with the change. I haven't played much Dark Angels,
Mhm.
I will confess, but from just a stand like a detachment alone, definitely something I'd be looking into, guys.
Okay, nice. You think they'll be relevant in the meta going forward?
Yeah, I think if you've got a collection of Dark Angels is pretty popular, Vic. If
Absolutely.
you've got a collection of Dark Angels, you were previously playing a different Space Marine detachment, I could see definitely all of those players going. Actually, this new detachment's got a lot to offer. I'm going to bring my Dark Angels to the next tournament. I think,
Nice.
and actually, it be very competitive. I think it's definitely like a bottom A tier list detachment for sure.
Solid. Okay, who got brought up into line with the competitive armies. That's very good.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, why don't you take a green stinky boys?
Death Guard. Okay, so you know, Death Guard are one which the community is really talking about them being too strong. The statistics is showing them being relatively strong as well, and they just came out too late to get any changes here. So they've completely dodged it. And I think in terms of the impact on the meta, I think that's going to be quite a negative thing for the next few months because I think Death Guard are going to sit right up there at the top of the singles meta. They're
Yeah.
good across multiple detachments and their stuff is a little undercosted and strong. Now, they
Yeah.
did take a change in their
Yep.
FAQ on Death Shroud Terminators, which
Hmm.
can no longer rapid ingress their 6 inches, which is actually fairly significant, I think.
You think so?
I think so. I think that's we should be happy we at least got that.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think Death Guard do need some more adjustments coming down the line. And unfortunately for Death Guard players, I think they're going to get bigger adjustments than they otherwise would have gotten because it didn't get touched in this particular patch. A small
Yeah.
touch here is actually all I think Death Guard need. They need a few points touches here and there. And they're just set near like a nice mid A tier kind of army, which is perfectly fine for an army to be.
Yep.
But now I think they're going to get hit hard because the statistics are going to show them just miles above everyone else.
And do you know what the most popular army at Bristol was, Vic?
It
Coming up?
was Death Guard.
Death Guard. At like 8% of the entire meta on the very first week where it's
Absolutely.
like big and legal, I think. Oh, not the very first week, but maybe the second week or something. I think that this army is pretty much squarely in the best army in the game category right now, if I'm being completely honest.
Mhm.
Their stuff is way too cheap. And it is so easy for them to get the 6 inch deep strike. It is ridiculous. You can
Mhm.
do that on turn 1 with like Poxwalkers or something. Just infiltrate, or you can't obviously can't 6 inch deep strike, but you can get contagion, right? Like I found it so trivially easy. I tried to play around it the entire games I've played against Death Guard, and I found it so difficult that I just ran out of assets trying to stop their Terminators from 6 inch deep striking me at the end of the day. And I mean, sure you can't rapid ingress 6 inches, but you can still just deep strike, shoot something with anti infantry, and then like come down and charge. I mean, it's basically a six, right? Uh,
Mhm.
Very hard
Yeah,
to play around.
yeah. I think they're quite strong, and the comparison between them and T Suns is very interesting because both armies have come out at kind of a relatively same time and dodged nerfs here. Um, the big difference is I think Death Guard are truly not reliant on the terrain to be effective.
Yeah,
And I think T Suns do fall off a little bit depending on your terrain format or which mission you play, which terrain layout you play.
yeah.
So I think we'll probably find that Death Guard are a little bit better in singles. But I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Thousand Suns come out as the stronger one at WTC.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
completely agree. Yeah,
but both of them are going to be pretty damn good, I think, for the next
yeah.
3 months.
Well, I think at Bristol, Thousand Suns was only I think like 3 to 4% of the meta, right?
18
Just goes
players,
straight.
yeah. So
18 players, right? Yeah,
yeah,
so
it's
2%.
never been as popular as Death Guard. So
Right.
mm.
Interesting. Death Guard, and I guess part of me just logically says, well, the balanced data slate was written a month or something ago, right? And they just didn't have the time to get changes in for Death Guard. So I hope that there are changes coming in like 2 weeks' time that just specifically target Death Guard. If I'm being completely honest, like it's not
Mm.
difficult to just adjust the MFM in 2 weeks' time. You don't need to translate that to any languages or something like that, right? Just change the point values, like put it to Spanish, French, German, whatever, right? Uh, yeah, I don't know. That
So
seems like the easiest way to.
here is a tough situation now, I think, for Death Guard. Because I think if they so we're gonna get to orcs, but I'm almost just gonna make a quick comment about it here, where
Mhm.
orcs got a change to more DACA halfway through this balance cycle, but still got points increases in all of the units that were in more DACA. Um, so that means that if Death Guard do get a little points change coming up now, I think there's a good chance they also an FAQ change now. There's a good chance they also get big points changes as well. It's
Mm.
really a lose-lose situation for Death Guard players here. What they really need, and I wish they did this with these armies that are just a little bit better than everyone else, like your Yunaris, your Emperor's Children, your Death Guard, just like take the edge off it. Don't completely demolish it. And I worry Death Guard are going to get absolutely demolished in the next
Yeah.
update.
Well, they can enjoy winning in the meantime. No, I
Yeah,
look. Obviously, I completely agree with you.
yeah.
It's
Everyone
it's
wants
kind
a
of
bit of
surprising.
longevity.
It's kind of surprising that fielded blow drones got through on those points anyway. Like did anyone sit down and think, it's like 10 points per wound here, and it shoots basically flat damage 3 across the board on a tiny base. Like,
Well, so all of the cult. So I don't know about World Eaters, but Death Guard, Emperor's Children, and EC all got a unit that was undercosted. I think EC the least out of them with the Winged Demon Prince, but I
sure,
think
yeah,
Death Guard with the Fetid Blow Throne and T Sons with the Zangor with bows.
yep,
I
hmm,
think those units were severely undercosted.
yeah.
So yeah, something one unit slipping through is all you need to push a codex over the edge.
Yeah, that's true. I think Death Guard have like probably 4 to 5 units that are only costed.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on. What have we got up next? I'm just going to keep scrolling through until we hit the one
Emperor's
that.
Children. We've got Emperor's
Oh
Children,
yes.
which we've gone past. It's only points changes there.
Oh, let me jump over to the points really quick. Oh, there's no green on this one. Sorry, mate. I'm sorry if I spoiled it.
No, it's all red.
Give me a second here. Sorry about that. Oh.
Okay, so Emperor's Children is an interesting one because they have so few data sheets. Essentially, your list building is still locked in.
Mhm.
I would say for EC players, just imagine that these points nerfs haven't even happened. Just look at the number on the right hand side, and that is the starting points you ever started with, and it'll feel a
Mm.
lot less painful than it does at the moment.
Mhm.
And I actually think looking at this, let's forget the taking 100 points increase on your Coterie of the Conceited list. You still can build an army that pretty much does what your army was doing before.
Mhm.
But what I think has happened now is that Emperor's Children don't have enough stuff to consistently push themselves over the finish line.
Okay.
Instead, they're going to be an army that's actually really fun to play with and fun to play against, where your
Mhm.
opponent is killing most of your army and maybe just about gets it done. But
Mhm.
if the EC player, everything just about goes right, then they're going to be the ones that ends up with a little bit of stuff at the end. I
Mhm.
actually think this balance is very needed for EC.
Okay.
And I think it puts them in a position where they are not the strongest army in the game, but they're a strong army.
Okay. Yeah.
And I
I
think this is going to
think
be a very healthy level of change for them going forward.
I do like the Demon Prince change here because every list, like all the top end lists, was just like 3 wing Demon Princes, and they can be a little bit frustrating to play against at times, I guess.
Mhm.
The fallback and charge ability and the mortal wounds and stuff like that.
Yeah. Lucius getting 10 points. I personally think Lucius was not good at 140 points, but I
Yeah,
know
I
a lot of
agree. Yeah.
people love Lucius.
Mhm.
But if you actually look at feedback of people, they're like, oh, Lucius, does he actually do that much? And
Yeah.
I don't think Lucius does enough for 140 points. He's better off
Yeah.
being put into points for the Demon Prince with wings.
Yeah. I would
So at
have.
150 points, oh man, you've got to look for alternatives.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen the flawless blades go down. I think those models are awesome as well.
Oh yeah, they've
Put
got
them
a
at like
bad
100
data
points.
sheet. Bad data sheet, unfortunately.
Yeah, but they could join
Yeah,
Lucius, like
I
bit anti
know.
tank there or something. Uh, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, rhinos and fractors,
I mean,
Ultramarine,
yeah, they didn't get touched, so I
touch.
think
So,
the army still functions in exactly the same way, just
mhm.
with 1 unit less, basically,
Okay,
which
yeah.
is enough to tip them down, I think, into a very balanced position.
Yeah, and Emperor's Children was weird because it was one of those armies where 1 unit is actually sometimes 3 units when you consider what it can do with the buffs in some circumstances, right? Like
Mhm.
if you have 1 unit at the end of the game, it's a lot more than 100 points of its
Absolutely.
worth in the
Yep.
end of the game, right? So a little bit of a tough one to balance, I think, as get it right. And to be fair, in our team chat as well, I think Emperor's Children was one of those ones that there was quite a bit of disagreement on exactly where it was landing, right? In terms of was it the best army in the game? Was it, the second, you know what I mean? So quite a bit of varied opinion on
Mhm.
Emperor's Children, I think, as well. And that's partly because I think they were a bit susceptible to some matchups. Like, for example, I think Guard was a bit of a tough matchup for them. Being off objectives with big tanky stuff can be difficult for them sometimes. So
Mhm.
interesting. I would have liked to have seen
Yeah.
maybe 50 to 70 points personally.
Yeah, they
Righty-ho.
maybe it was a bit harsh, I think. But you know what? It could have been worse.
Mhm. Righty-ho. We are on to Tau. Man, there are some big changes for the Fish Boys. We
Oh,
could
we've
talk to
got
Orcs first. Oh, well,
Oh
there's
yeah,
Necrons as
Necrons and
well.
Orcs. What's
Uh,
your thoughts on Necrons, Dave?
Man, okay, so Necrons did get changed. In fact, every single datasheet almost that was in the Canoptic Court original list basically got reverted back to almost its original points.
I think
I
we have a
actually,
question on this actually, which
oh
you can
yeah,
talk about as you answer, which is from Matt. Why are Necrons so weak and needed buffs? Asking for a friend. Carry on.
Lovely. Okay. Necrons were actually in a pretty interesting state. I think there was a couple of really viable builds, and I played them today. Awakened Dynasty was a legitimately very good teams build. Very frustrating to play against, not a good play experience. So I thought maybe they have tackled one part of that in the points, and the points here are the main thing. So let me just bring up the points here. But actually, Star Shadow was actually quite a good detachment. It wasn't getting played here in the UK, but GW terrain, Star Shadow was significantly better. In fact, our teammate played that at BFS when I was in New York, and Richard Siegel also played it with 12 Wraiths. So his build went down. So I actually think Necrons were in a perfectly fine state. And if anything, there are some units here I probably would have changed. Like, of the stuff that didn't get changed, Void Dragon is pretty bad. I would probably change him. Lich Guard have never been really played very much. Night Scythe, Ophidian Destroyer's fine. Overlord, like there are a couple of units here that actually didn't really see play at all, like Doom Scythe, for example. Triac Praetorians have been a long time, like not a lot of play there. So I was surprised to see basically everything from the Canoptic list go down. So I just punched in a list. I played it for a client today, and my list went down. My list went down 80 points, Vic.
Oh,
That's quite a lot. And to be perfectly honest with you, the main problem with Canoptic Court was literally just that it didn't have enough chaff. So your 80 points is not really bumping up any big units. That's just going into like a Locust Destroyer here, a Deathmark Squad there. So Look, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I think 18 wraiths are back on the menu. If you
Oh,
want to build,
that's actually
uh,
really sad. No
yeah,
one enjoys that. And Necrons, I've had a problem with Necron balancing all the way through this edition because
yep. Hypercrypt has been there as well.
why can't Necrons just be allowed to live in their low A tier position and just not really be touched? You can tweak things here and there if you want, but why do they need constant like attention?
Yeah,
They you could just let them exist in a nerfed position
yeah.
where they're still pretty solid.
It
Ah,
does look kind of odd when, like, I'm all for things getting balanced, of course, right? But I can totally understand the position if you're like a Death Watch player, or if you're a Sisters player, or Sisters that get changed,
correct.
or if you're an Agents player, and you see these other factions like Blood Angels and Necrons that are literally stronger than your army on every metric and every subjective opinion, then getting very nuanced changes, and you kind of sit there wondering, like, why can't my army? Like, do they just spin the roulette and they're like, this month it's Necrons and Blood Angels. Like, awesome, guys. So I think it's not like they watch us anyway. But if I was in the balance team, I would be cognizant of the fact that there is a hierarchy of strength of armies, and when you do make changes, it's like when you promote someone at work. When you promote someone, you're also saying someone else shouldn't be promoted. So when you balance an army and increase its power level, you're also saying that other armies don't need to get their power level increased. In my opinion, there's always a positive and negative reflex to any action that you have. Okay, speaking of reflexes, the data sheets that I played were 3 Canoptic
Oh
Doomstalkers,
no.
18 Wraiths, I played a unit of Death Marks, I played Luminos Eris, I played 3 Technomancers, I played 3 Plasmancers, and I will take a point. I played 1 Locust Destroyer, which did go up 5 points, but but the rest of my list was literally only 15 Immortals. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that list is got power, man. So
Yeah,
yeah,
at least it's super fun to play again. So I'm excited to
yeah,
see that back in the meta.
yeah. I was loving rolling the 4 ups and the 5 ups.
Beautiful. Yeah. No,
Correct movie.
everyone
Anyway,
enjoys getting through those raids. Can you kill 6 raids is going to be the question again.
can you
Not
kill 6
again.
rates? Oh, I'll make them loan up. And then loan up 18 was actually still quite good. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's not the change I would have made, but the changes I would have made are to Orcs. Actually, I'm just kidding. Should I go to the points as well, because that's
Yeah,
particularly
go
really
on.
relevant
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Orcs taking some nerfs here.
Well, it looks like a pretty mixed sea of green and red here, Vic. Are you sure that there was a nerf?
Oh man, yeah. The greens are very questionable compared to the
Yeah,
reds here.
yeah.
The greens
But
are
come
like
on.
actually a pretty nice way of balancing. Like, you know what?
I
Let's make some of
mean,
this stuff a bit better.
Rocket Truck Squid Buggy,
Yeah, the
that's been
cult of
pretty meta
speed.
dominant. So that coming down is a big surprise.
Oh, it was at one point.
Yeah, it actually was.
Oh god, that was a bad time.
So the way I kind of read this one was that this is particularly targeted at tactical, obviously. However, there are some schools of thought, I think, that say that tactical isn't actually the best detachment, and that Warhorde is actually the strongest detachment. So Orcs did go up a lot on their tactical, but their Orcs have a lot of side grade potential, and Warhorde potentially being the best build didn't get hit actually as hard as it looks here. I think, boys weren't actually played that much. Tank busters in Warhorde were not like super popular. Which one is the kill team one, Vic? Sorry.
Oh, that is the tank busters.
Oh, that is the tank busters.
The breaker boys and the tank
Breaker
busters.
boys. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Breaker boys didn't get changed, right? Yeah,
Uh,
Breaker boys are also the same. None of the melee characters, I think, went up as well. So I'm not sure exactly how many points the Warhorde list took. I know
mean,
they did play
it
some
had
flash kits, but
6 trucks, right, or something.
6 trucks, yeah.
Yeah,
So
so 30
that's the
points
cool
on
part.
that.
Yeah. So, I mean, tactical taking back-to-back nerfs. I don't really know if that was like needed or justified, but
Yeah, no,
Warhorde, I still think.
they've definitely ignored the statistics and just gone in hard on orcs here, which is kind of a similar thing that they did with guard.
Mhm.
So maybe they people see the power beyond just the statistics, which I think is fair enough. I think orcs are better than their stats,
Sure. Yeah.
uh, but maybe I don't know. I feel like you could have just let them cook, to be honest.
Yeah. Same with 20 Krieg. Could just let him cook.
I mean, if we can let 6 raids cook, we should let 23 cook.
I think orcs will be. I don't know if this is actually if this will. I don't know if this change will move the needle on the core statistics for the general public. If I'm being completely honest, and I think at WTC you will see some teams probably taking Warhorde. Like I think that's just a very good build. So I don't know if that'll really affect anything that was going to happen, regardless. Actually, in my opinion, at least.
I will find it really interesting to see if WTC teams would be choosing between orcs and Emperor's Children as a melee pressure army rather than taking both.
Yeah, it's probably the case of like if you've got an orc specialist, you're probably on that regardless, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Why don't we go back to Space Marines? We've chatted through. Calgar went down a few points. Tau Empire, the biggest change of the whole balanced data slate, I think, right?
Well, it's just an army rule change, isn't it? It's a solid army rule change. I really like it personally.
Yep.
I think this is a real simplification and kind of how I wish it was written in the first place, which is essentially start of your shooting phase. You basically get your units that are going to be your observer units, and they pick an enemy unit, and that enemy unit is basically marked.
Yep.
And then anytime any of your units that's not an observer unit shoots at that unit, you'll get reroll. You'll get your increase in ballistic skill and then ignore cover if it's stealth suits. So I think that's really nice. One stealth suit unit can go look at this unit that you got to kill, and your whole army basically gets reroll ones to hit, wound, and ignore cover against it.
Yep.
Which is nice, clean, thematic. Is it too powerful, Dave? What do you think?
First of all, I think it's a great change because I do think it makes it easier as an opponent to just understand what the fuck exactly is going on with shooting you for 10 minutes. Yeah, I think actually, so we had some mixed reactions on our Discord. We got a couple of Tau players there, and Lewis Smith, who lives down the road from me, my good friend, is a big Tau enjoyer. In fact, he was the Tiger Shark enjoyer. And, one thing I would say is Lewis has been pretty active in the chat. So I think Lewis is definitely happy. And so what Lewis said was that, and I think I'm going to play him this week, and we'll probably get him on to talk about some of these changes, is that and when you were doing Tau list building, you would have to dedicate a certain number of MSU units and stuff like that to be your spotting guiding combinations, which would mean that your list building was a little bit like T-Suns with the Cabal change, actually. This is a good analogy. You would have to fill up a certain number of components in your list building part, which meant that, if you wanted more firepower or you wanted more scoring aspects, you were suffering in one of those directions. Now you're actually freed up a lot to do that. Now, there are some things that have like stealth suits are obviously the best, the premium ones probably, but you don't have to play those if you don't just have the points. Just because you're not playing that unit, you can still spot. And there's an absolute key change here that we've missed. You no longer suffer the penalty for split firing.
Oh, yes.
So, if you have an enormous shooting platform like a Storm Surge, or if you've got maybe a Tiger Shark, you can just guide some things, shoot into that with better ballistic skill, and then split shots otherwise, and you don't get the -1 penalty. So, it's actually a pretty big buff. Now, they did take a nerf, which I think was justified. Because this is a very big buff. Like the greater good buff, I think is very big. Now, you basically get sustained 1s, and they lost the sustained 2, I think.
Yeah, so Kalyon, instead of being sustained 2, is now you keep sustained 1 all the time, and you get ignore ballistic skill modifiers and hit modifiers.
To be fair, ignore ballistic skill modifiers and hit modifiers is actually pretty good as well. Like, granted, I know that Riptides already do that, but a lot of your stuff doesn't. So if your opponent's going to pop smoke or is -1 to hit natively, that's pretty good, I think. So, there are many circumstances where that is a side grade. Granted, most of the time it's a downgrade because sustain 2 is just very good.
It's very clever to catch that.
But it's
yeah, it's interesting. And then they've also, like, all the changes with Tau are very clever because they've increased the points on stealth suits. They've changed, so through Unity Devastation and the coordinated exploitation enhancements are 40 points each. So, but they're very powerful with this particular army rule change. So they've put a lot of thought into doing this. So whoever has come up with this set of changes, I think you've done a damn good job. The plus
Nice.
10 points on Crude Carnivores is very clever at dealing with that Crude army, which is awful to play against.
I don't mind that one. Oh, killing Kurt's
Oh,
easy.
that one is just a nightmare. But otherwise, they've just left things as they are, and
Yep.
it's ready to cook. I think this is going to be a great army for Tau players to use, and I don't think it's going to be a bad one to play against either.
And you know what's interesting? I don't even think a lot of people thought, man, Kaoyun got nerfed, and I thought, what if you just played Montkar, which actually was pretty decent beforehand, and you just get a way better army rule now? Like, that's still that's only buffs, right? So something to consider there as well, I think.
Yeah, let's see what the Tau community are very good at developing list designs. So let's see what they come up with, because I think we're going to see a number of different detachments here.
Cool, I love that. Let's go for the. Well, I guess we got Tyranids here. What else?
Yeah.
Is Tyranids the last one we're capping it off with?
Yeah, Tyranids is the last one, Dave. Go on, all yours.
As you know, well, as Vic knows, well, if anyone who's known me for a couple of years, I haven't been playing them a lot this edition, but in 9th edition, I was a big Tyranid enjoyer. So why don't I bring up I'm going to bring up the Ravener datasheet, and I'm going to bring up the new detachment, because Tyranids, I think, have finally gotten a detachment, which I think is actually pretty fucking spicy, if I'm being honest with you, man. Give me 1 second here. Bringing up the Raveners, just to give you guys the full picture here. Okay, let's talk about just the Ravener change to begin with, because I think that's an easy one to digest. Raveners, come on, load please. Okay. So I'll show you you should be able to see the Wahapedia, right, Vic?
Yeah.
So this is the old Ravener datasheet. 75 points for 3 models. They've got 7 attacks at 522. Nice, twin linked. Okay.
511?
5-1, yeah, 5-1-1, sorry. Not a bad suite of attacks here, if I'm being honest, right?
7.
They go up to strength 6 if you're near a synapse unit, 5-1-1. Okay, now let's go to the new one. Now you've got 3 attacks at 5-2-2 twin linked. So, it's a pretty good change depending on what target you're trying to go into here. What I would say is Tyranids have the chaff shooting is a little bit easier, right? Now, instead of 3 models for 75 or 6 models for 150, you're now paying 5 models for 125. So an interesting change there as well. So they've removed the unit count size, and they've just straight up gone to a unit of 5, which a unit of 5, man, for 125 is pretty damn good. 25 points a model, 522. These guys move 10. Okay, but I missed this as well? Yeah, it's still weapon skill 3. Okay. But they've got some big brothers now, Vic.
What's this?
Yeah, I don't know if this got spoiled earlier and I just missed it, but they've gotten a new datasheet as well. This hyper-adapted Raveners. Maybe this is like a kill team box or something. You get 5 of them for 165, and I'll double-check the points in a second here. The main guy only has this gun here, the Venom Bolt. So the main guy gets the Strength 6 Flamer at D6 plus 3, which is a nice, healthy amount of shots. And then you've also got the main guy has 6 attacks at 522, and each other Ravener has 3 attacks at 522, and they're anti-monster, anti-vehicle, twin-linked. So even if you're going into a toughness 10 tank, you're wounding half the time with twin-linked. You get sustained as well. Awesome. And then you get, once per battle round, you can rapid ingress or heroic for free, even if you've targeted with a different unit. So,
wow.
You can, you had those Venatari. I believe you should be able to triple rapid ingress the hyper adapted Raveners. So you can field 30 Raveners in a list, which would be pretty spicy, particularly if they came with a new detachment that was completely built around them. So I think a Games Workshop wanting to make a little bit of money here on some models, maybe.
The squad leader has 6 wounds in that hyper adapter. That's very cool.
Nice, eh? I think hopefully the models look really cool as well, so I think it'll be awesome. So let's go to their detachment rule. Now, Vic, when I read this...
Oh, Dave, can you hear me? I lost the sound.
And that's why I double-checked that my microphone was working when I moved it just then, because it was in the middle of the way. Okay, I read this detachment rule, and I thought, man, surprise assault. All Tyranid models in your army, whenever they make an attack, reroll a hit roll of 1. I was like, that's the fucking best detachment they've printed yet. Just army-wide, melee ranged, reroll a hit roll of 1. I mean, if you just printed that detachment rule, you'd be like, this is probably the best detachment for Tyranids anyway. Then they have this this weird burrower rule. Now, I'm not going to go right into all the way how to use this and stuff, but short thing, you can get a 6-inch charge from your burrower units, right?
Mhm.
The Raveners that I just showed you, they're burrower units. And then the Morlock and the Trigon also get burrower units. So you can make a 6-inch deep strike with a significant portion of your army in combat, which is pretty fucking spicy. Enhancements, rapid ingress, 0 CP. You can do that with a winged tyrant, for example. It's kind of interesting. Not amazing considering you have a bunch of rapid ingress and 6-inch charges here. You can redeploy. Not great, I don't think either. Vanguard intellect. You can. This is a deep strike model only, so I'm not sure if that counts zone threats with the Neurotyrant, because I don't know if the Neurotyrant has deep strike, but you could deep strike turn 1 with a tyrant, for example. I don't know if that's great.
Is the
If you
Ravener Prime a character?
the Ravener Prime.
In that hyper-adapted Raveners unit?
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Ooh. I just assumed because it wasn't a character. Ooh, here we go. What do you think, Vic? What's your money on?
I think he is.
Hyper adapted Ravener. He is a character. Oh, that's awesome. So you
Big
can
money.
deep strike the hyper adapted Raveners turn 1. Yeah, not sure how insanely good that is. Usually deep striking in your opponent's field turn 1 is
Not good, no.
pretty bad. Trigon model only, this last one, you get Synapse, which is occasionally good because it's going to give yourself +1 strength. You get strength and weapon skill characteristics by 1, which is big because you're a native weapon skill 3 platform. So then you go to weapon skill 2 and you reroll 1s to hit. And you get +2 strength effectively. So that's pretty nice. Okay, strat wise, I wouldn't say the strats are insane. There's a couple I really like here. You can kind of uppy downy, classic. In your movement phase, which is a strange one. So you can uppy downy, I think, and then come back in the reinforcement phase, which would be cool.
Yep.
And through your tunnel, 6 inches away. And then you could, this one's really cool. A turreted monster within 6 inches, he gives reroll charges to everything within 6. So you deep strike your Hive Tyrant with wings, who just went down in points, use the strat, everything around him within 6 gets rerolling 6-inch charges. So, I was just complaining about Death Guard before, so, it is still a bit toxic. You can, 1 CP, you get sustained 1 when ignore cover. I mean, ignore cover is not incredible. And I believe this is weapons you have with the model. So actually, I glossed over this one. This one's actually very good. You can come in from reserve and with an Exocrine, for example, and you get sustain 1 and ignore cover. Actually quite decent there. Replenishing swarms, and this one you just give a Trigon or Morlock synapse. That's okay. And this one you can do a little bit of resurrection if you're within range.
It's a
but
good set of stratagems.
yeah. There's no advance in charge, but I guess you're trying to set up the 6-inch charges anyway. That kind of combos with actually a couple of changes here, which are pretty spicy as well. On the points side, Psychophage got a huge glow up. Psychophage got a lot better. I won't go into it. He got basically they fixed basically everything that he does, which was bloody useless. He's now got flat 6 attacks. He's got smoke. He moves 12. He was big and slow and stupid, so
Sure.
not the best. Hive Guard went down. Still never played them. Tyrant went down, which is
30.
I think fair because he lost the. He used to be once every turn, and so now he's once every battle round. On the CP discount. Screamer Killer went down. It's actually not a bad model. Some list I actually had a Screamer Killer in there. It's always nice. Winged Hive Tyrant went down, which I think is big here. So this guy's a bit of a sleeper build actually at the moment, I think. In this detachment, I'll bring it up here because I've got it up. In this detachment, you get to still use your Hive Tyrant ability. So you can come in from Deep Strike. You can use your strat for free because you can discount it. Then if he makes combat, he's hitting on 2s rerolling, and twin linked on strength 10, and he's hitting on 2s rerolling on his extra attacks as well. So Winged Hive Tyrant's back, baby. 30-point discount on him as well. So as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about Tyranid changes.
Yeah, he's solid. I think there's some play here now.
Yeah, Swarm Lord came down 20 points. I think good. I mean, the guy's like a fucking 10 wound model, for example. I don't know if you'd still play him, but some really healthy changes all around. I think fixing the Psychophage is a great example of what you were saying earlier, Vic. Is that they're getting a lot better at buffing units, and they definitely buffed it in the right direction and made it more expensive. And I think it's
Mhm.
at a more interesting point range here.
Yep.
Alrighty, is that it for our changes?
I think that's everything. So it's really
Nice, man.
just like going to be about our overall takes of the meta or the balanced slate. Do you think it
Uh-huh.
was a good balanced slate, Dave?
Um, I think it was a very, I think it was a very past-looking balanced data slate. If I'm being honest, that's the way I would characterize it, because I can't help but think that two new, and by that I mean, it was a balanced data slate looking backwards over the last couple of months, which I think
Hmm.
is, I understand why that probably happens in the, in the global conglomerate corporate of GW or whatever.
Mm.
Maybe it's hard to be as proactive as they would like to be, but I think this is definitely going to be classed as that, because you've got Death Guard and Thousand Sons arguably sitting at position 1 and 2 in the meta in terms of army strength, I think, and for them not to get changes on some pretty obvious units, I think is you know a bit of a miss there. But I think there was a huge amount of hits, to be honest. I'm usually pretty critical, but I think the Tyranid one was a big hit. I think the Dark Angels one was a big hit. I think the Gilliman changes were great. I think the Tau changes were great. Emperor's Children changes a little bit harsh. I think the Guard changes were a little bit harsh, but okay, that's fine. It mainly hit one build, which was good, I think. And yeah, I think it's definitely a win overall. I'm excited. I'm excited to play Warhammer and put 18 reds back on the table.
Fantastic. Nice, nice. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I pretty much agree with everything you've said there. I think there's there's a lot of good here. The way that they buff Tau is fantastic. The Tyranid buff's fantastic. Really
Mhm.
brought up these armies which are a bit weaker up. Sisters buffs great. All of these are great. And then you've got some armies which really didn't need buffs like Necrons and Blood Angels which got buffs. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the whole thing. Eldar and Emperor's Children, Guard and Orcs taking a little bit too much, but okay, yeah, it's all right. It's
Yep.
still within the realms of survivable.
Yep. I think Blood
Um,
Angels changes were a bit like, if there was one change, it was like, wait, what? I think the actually, to be fair, that's both the Necron and the Blood Angels
yeah,
changes. So
those two.
those are both a little bit like that's a bit of a head scratcher. I think
Yeah,
that could be a
it's
bit of an own goal
incorrect.
coming down.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, it is what it is. So, Dave, you've got questions.
Okay.
So, what do you think is likely the best Space Marine chapter?
Oh, dude. Oh, dude. So hard, man. I played again. Like genuinely,
Yeah.
I played a game against Liam on his vets,
Mhm.
CSM vets. By the way, he probably has like 300 games on this exact build. I could have won if I didn't misplay, which. And then Liam was like, "Oh, this Space Wolves Gladius build, like, can you send me the list? Like, it was quite good. I'd make these changes," which usually means I'm on to something if I can get a win against Liam in that position. So, I'm a big fan of. I think Space. Man, I think I was quite surprised that the Storm Raven didn't get changed as well. By the way,
Mhm.
because the Storm Raven and Stormlance Space Wolves is quite good. And I will tell you now that Thunderwolf Cavalry are definitely undercosted. They are extremely good. If you want a heads up, guys, the Codex hasn't even launched yet, but of course we're going to do a masterclass for it. Buy some Thunderwolf Cavalry now before everyone gets their orders in. I'm not even joking. Like every list, 3x3 Thunderwolf Cavalry, really good. So Stormlance, I think, is very good in Space Wolves. Liberator Assault Group got a lot better. And I think Gladius is still really good, just Ultramarine's Gladius as well. So, I don't think I think there's pros and cons each way, depending on what meta you're playing. I can see, like, Ultramarine's Gladius maybe being a little bit better if you're playing, say, with some bit more shooting metas, for example. But I
Mhm.
think they're all reasonably close. And I could see, if I had to put my money on it, John Lennon playing Stormlance, Storm Raven with Thunderwolf Cavalry. I think that's probably where I'd put my money, if I'm
Mhm.
being completely honest here.
Okay, yeah, Dave, we have you have two more questions, and
Oh,
I
shit.
have two more questions. So they're quick though. Now that Leon can order Titanic, what is the best Baneblade chassis?
No. Oh, I have to confess I haven't even looked. Um,
Okay, so but how about your predictions for the top three armies of the meta?
okay, if we're just going to look at win rate,
Singles, just singles.
okay, from my personal, so you guys can get the win rates wherever you want. You can go to stat check, you can see the win rates for the army, and if that's the way you want to decide what the best armies in the game are for a singles list, then more power to you. In my personal opinion, I think Death Guard are the strongest army in the game. I think if you're making a deep run in a tournament and there is a standout Thousand Sons player, I would put that smack bang at number 2. And I think I'm probably missing one here, but I think maybe some Marine variant, probably up there as well. I think it'd be interesting to see where Blood Angels land, to be honest with you. But Blood Angels could be really bad against both Death Guard and Thousand Suns. So if your opponent has Magnus, then you're kind of rocking up to the wrong table here, right? So that's where I would lean personally. Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
Gladius Ironstorm, really good too.
I think
What
big
about you?
shout out for CSM Renegade Raiders, maybe sliding in there.
Oh,
It is
that good is it?
the balance window of chaos absolutely dominating everything in my
Yeah.
opinion. And we do have a question asking for a tier list of CSM of chaos traitor codexes. So I
Mhm.
think that one's pretty straightforward. I think it's for both of us probably it's going to be Death Guard, T Suns, EC, and then World Eaters. Does that sound
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good question though.
Nice. And then is okay. We've talked about Yanari. We've talked about sisters. Um, People are asking me about. There's just lots of aubergines here, but I think this is about D cannons. Yeah, this is D cannons. Yeah, okay. D cannons versus Wraith Lords versus Prisms. I think none of them are particularly effective, efficient
Mhm.
anti tank. I think, but you need a little bit of something. So pick one of them and go for it. Guardian Battle Host run a couple of D cannons is amazing. Everyone
Yeah,
else consider taking Prisms. I think in this meta, it's awkward to take Howling Banshees. So there is an argument for Wraith Lords being combined melee and anti tank for you as an
yeah.
option here because they did go up in points.
One good question by Todders here is predictions for the detachments for the new Thousand Suns, which will be the most play, get the most tournament wins. I think that one's super interesting as well.
Oh yeah, I did
I
miss
think
that
we
one.
probably think the same on this one as well, right? Like,
I mean, I don't know how good the mutant detachment will be compared to the Coven. It's between
yeah,
those two.
I think after having played both, I think Coven is definitely stronger.
Oh,
If that
okay.
influences your decision at all.
I mean, I was going to go Coven anyway,
Yeah.
but I think the mutant detachment has this macro strategy
Mhm.
that is going to be consistent in singles.
Okay. Yeah.
I think Coven is also consistent though, so I think it's going to be really close. But I think stats wise, I think Coven's going to do better.
Okay, I think I would have Coven, then Rubricae Phalanx, and then I would have Mutant and Vehicle Detachment in different ways. Different builds. Builds are completely different for those anyway. The real question is, Vic,
Mhm.
Magnus or no Magnus?
Magnus is terrain dependent. You know what? Maybe it's
Is
not
he?
even terrain dependent. I'm on team no Magnus
Oh,
at the moment because
yeah.
I personally think we have much better long range output options than we did in the
Mm,
index.
yeah.
So I can really see Magnus being switched for a whole bunch of long range shooting.
Yeah.
Like personally, for me, I prefer even three Forge Fiends overall
Hmm.
compared to Magnus
Okay.
for the same amount of points. What do you think, Dave?
Uh, it's undeniable, I think, that Magnus is very good into some matchups, right? That's obviously where he shines. I think if you're getting gate kept by pressure armies, I think you should play Magnus. Let's, like, for example, your tables, you might be in the mid tables, right? And you might be getting gate kept by some armies. Um, but I think if you want to play the absolute most, I guess the mirror matchup in Death Guard is interesting as well. I would say Team No Magnus, me personally. If I had to take a choice.
I'm team. I think Magnus is a small trap. Oh,
But yeah, it's very small though. Yeah,
very small
yeah,
because I think Magnus takes a chunk out of himself and he dies when he shows himself.
yep. I think so as well. I think Death Guard with the bloat drones too have a legitimately good chip damage into them, which can be really frustrating. Like if your opponent has a chance just to chip Magnus every turn, so that when you bring him out onto turn 3 to like charge something, he's not on 16 wounds. He's on 10. Then all of a sudden, like he's dead in the next turn, which I think comes down to the pilot, of course, as
Yep.
well.
And I think, let's say you wanted to kill a vehicle standing out. Magnus is beautiful at that. He pokes his head out, kills a vehicle. But I think you could do that with six bow goats, a
Hmm.
forge fiend, and have an exalted sorcerer in there with 100 points more to spare
Yep.
and achieve exactly the same thing.
Yeah, nice. There we go. Awesome, guys. Once again, recently we hit 5K subscribers on YouTube. Recently we
Yes.
hit 500 members as well. Our
Yes.
Discord, honestly, today was one of the best days. Our Discord, like every single channel, was just like great chat about like the changes, what you would do. Like we even made a Tau channel, we made a Tyrannid channel. Like our Discord is the best if you want to talk about your faction, bring like new, fresh ideas, listen to other people, want to find some direction, connect with good players. We've got our Team Ignite hangout in there as well. Lewis was chatting about Tau, still chatting about Tau. So there we go, guys. That's been the episode. Like, comment, subscribe. We always appreciate the support. Vic and I are always blown away by the support we get from the community. We were chatting about that just the other night as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, everyone, and see you all next time by the fireside. Thank you for listening to the 40K Fireside. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, drop us a comment, check out the YouTube members area, and we look forward to seeing you again next time by the fireside.